If I may have your attention, please. At this time, we're going to begin the funeral services here in our chapel for Dr. Howard Aduss. As we begin the service, I would ask if any of you might have a cell phone or any other noise-making device, please turn them off at this time. Officiating the service here today is Rabbi Andrea London from Beth Emmet, the Free Synagogue, which is located in Evanston.
Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid, ki mimini balamot, v'chen samach libi, v'egel kivodiyach b'sarishkon davetach. The psalmist taught, I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side, I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exult and my soul rejoice. My being is secure, for you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful ones see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. Death has taken our beloved Howard Aduss. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, be with them. For Howard's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever. For his companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. And so as we gather here to mourn Howard's loss, we also want to celebrate the 90 years of his life, an absolutely incredible and full life that he lived. As I was reading the obituary and talking with the family yesterday, the word that came to my mind when I thought about Howard is Gibor Chayil, a person of valor. Many people are familiar with the concept of Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor from the book of Proverbs, and it talks about a woman who delights in her work and in her family and is successful and accomplished and caring and loving, and I thought, that's exactly who Howard Aduss was in his life, a Gibor Chayil, a person of valor. He was a mensch. He was wise and kind, a good listener, great sense of humor, and he was loved by everyone, by family, by friends, by patients, admired and loved by colleagues as well. 90 years, successful as an orthodontist in his craniofacial work, successful as a human being, and loving and caring. And if that weren't enough, he also enjoyed his life, traveling all over the world, enjoying time on his sailboats and with his beloved Marcia. Married almost 68 years, together close to 70. So many blessings and so much loss and sadness in our heart. We hold all of those now as we dedicate this time to his memory and to a life that was incredibly well lived. Adonai roi lo'echsar b'nodeshe yar bitzeni. Al mei menachot yinahaleni nafshi yoshevev yancheni v'maglei tzedek lema'an shemo. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. L'kol zman ve'et, l'chol chafetz tachat hashamayim, et laledet ve'et lamut. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. So we take these precious moments together to speak about the life of Howard Aduss. Family and friends want to share reminiscences about him. And so I'm going to invite Howard's granddaughter, Chelsea, to come forward. She will be sharing some words from longtime friends of Howard's.
This was written by Bob and Sylvia Babin, long-term friends. My best friend, Captain Mensch, my skipper. How many hundreds of miles have we sailed together? Through storms, flies in sunny skies. You, Howard, the reliable, the capable, the implacable perfectionist. Your idea of storing your beautiful Swan sailing yacht for 7 years of exploration of the Mediterranean was sheer genius. Thank you for inviting us aboard. I trust you with my life. You navigated a beautiful life voyage. Truly, your journey was the reward. Fair skies and friendly seas. We love you. My grandfather Howard will be remembered for many wonderful things, and his daughter, my Aunt Kathy, is going to begin by highlighting the accomplishments of his career.
Before I talk about my father's career, I just wanted to acknowledge the beautiful painting of him. It was done by my mother, who is an artist, and it was done about 15 years ago. Everybody who sees it, even now when he was 90, always says he looks exactly the same. He hasn't aged a day. So we'll always remember him looking like that. Thank you, Marcia. Howard was a professor emeritus at the University of Illinois College of Medicine and a staff member and director of the Center for Craniofacial Anomalies. He was also on staff at Rush Medical College. While maintaining an active private practice in Skokie, he devoted his career to the clinical research and treatment of children born with birth defects of the face and head. The patients and their families loved Dr. Aduss and remember him as a special, caring person. My father was president of the American Cleft Palate Association. Because of his clinical research and publications, he was invited to teach and lecture about craniofacial anomalies all over the world. One of his colleagues, Mimis Cohn, who couldn't be here today, wrote my mother a beautiful letter that describes how my father affected change. Mimis wrote, "I knew him for over 40 years, and I was always impressed with his dedication, his deep knowledge, and expertise in the field of cleft and craniofacial care. His guidance was very important to me, particularly in the beginning of my career. The last several years, which I call round 2 of his involvement with the center, I had the opportunity to spend more time with him and further appreciate his deep thinking, analysis, and combined treatment plans for some of the most difficult patients. I am grateful to have had the opportunity to publicly acknowledge not only his incredible involvement to patient care, but his leadership qualities and contributions in the overall advancement of cleft care. Howard's vision, and yours, of course, Marcia, were instrumental in creating the advisory board, the predecessor of the Face the Future Foundation, which provided so much needed financial support to our center over the years. Above all, his and your contribution in setting the stage for the new center is without question your greatest gift to the care of our patients and a testimony of your deep dedication to the care of our needy patients for years to come. My father was a dedicated orthodontist, researcher, and educator. I started working in his orthodontic office at age 15. I worked there every school break and summer for 7 years. Of course, it taught me a good work ethic, but more importantly, watching my dad taught me how to treat patients and staff with kindness, caring, and respect, and how to have fun while you're working hard. I knew that I wanted to take care of people for a living thanks to working with my dad.
I'd now like to invite Howard's daughters, Laura and Debbie, to speak.
When Dad turned 90 in March, we had a surprise party at Debbie's house in Arizona. Birthday party night, we played a game where everyone took turns. It was called Dad Was Right When. As we went around the table, no one was at a loss for ideas. We reminisced about our growing up and what he instilled in us. We loved him, including us in his daily routine, chores, and home projects, creating the tight team we are today. Perhaps he was also building the perfect sailing crew. But the best thing Dad was right about was Mom and sailing through life with Blondie.
Now I'd like to share words written by Howard's son, my Uncle Rob. My father, he's always been there for me without regret. From my first tool when I started construction to falling on my face many times. I always discussed ideas for bettering my business to dealing with everyday life issues. His kindness, patience, love, character, personality, I watched from the way that he handled life. This was with open arms, open heart, and again, patience. This has been priceless. Today, I still learn from what he has taught me. From this, I received a beautiful family and grandchild. His knowledge and his wisdom will be embedded in my life and never forgotten. I love you, and I'll miss you every day. And now we'd like to invite up Rob's daughter, Amanda.
Grandpa, as I sat down to think about what to write, I found myself searching for memories, and while memories came, some distinct, like when I got to watch you make your famous Thanksgiving stuffing, and some more intangible, like your walk, your voice, or the way you would cross your legs in the morning while you read the paper, I found myself left with two overwhelming feelings, regret and love. Regret for all of the moments that I missed with you, that I could have been by your side. Regret for not taking the time to ask you more about your life and soak up your wisdom. Regret for not calling you every day to remind you what an incredible soul you are. Regret that my daughters will never get to experience you in the flesh. but most of all regret for not telling you more often that I love you. While this emotion of regret felt overwhelming, it was fleeting because it kept becoming overpowered by the feeling of love, and with every should've or could've came with an image of you embracing me with the tightest hug, as if we had been apart for years, but only just as we had seen each other yesterday. As I reflected, I realized that makes perfect sense, because I know that is how you would be making me feel right now. It's how you always made me feel, as if we had never been apart, as if I had been there for it all, from beginning to end, which is you, Grandpa. You are love. You are love through the relationship that you have with Grammy, and the incredible example that you gave all of us to aspire to reach in our own relationships. You are love through the way you are as a father, and while we heard your love was tough at times, it was intentional with every decision to shape your 4 children into the incredible good humans that they are today. You are love through your patience, kindness, generosity, and the unique relationship that you took time to cultivate with each of your 9 grandchildren. You were love as a doctor through the compassion and care that you gave to thousands of those in need. You were so clearly love as a brother, a son, and a friend, which is shown through all of the relationships that you cultivated and maintained throughout your 90 years on this earth. And you will continue to be love through everyone sitting here today, because it is impossible to remember anything about you without also sharing the love that you gave to this world. So to ensure that I continue to share your love with all who knew and didn't know you, here are 3 promises to you, Grandpa. 1, I promise to follow your example. As a professional, to remain driven yet humble. As a friend, to always be there with laughter and positivity, even when the moments seem hard. As a member of the Aduss family, to show up as you always did. As a significant other, to commit to life with my partner, no matter their circumstance, and to love them unconditionally, hopefully for the next 60 years, just as you have. As a parent, to trust in my children and allow them to be themselves while helping them to find their own way. And as a human, to leave the world better than when I found it. My second promise is to not listen to you on one thing. I will not shake off the pain of you not being physically here with us. I will keep it forever as a reminder of the man that you are and the person that I should strive to be. And my third promise is to never speak about you in past tense, because love never dies. I love you, Grandpa, always and forever.
Now I'd like to invite Howard's grandson, Alex Fisher, to speak.
Growing up, Marsha and Howard, or Grammy and Grandpa, were a regular presence in our lives, and I grew up just thinking, yeah, this is what grandparents are like. You know, I assumed everyone's grandparents doted on their grandchildren and hosted Thanksgiving gatherings with the entire family and sailed around the world and did the Sunday crossword and pen, and, you know, that's just grandparent stuff. And it wasn't until I got older and started having conversations with other people about their families that I came to understand how remarkable they are. That not everyone had a grandfather who loved them so much and so clearly, who was unfailingly warm and kind and patient. How rare it is to see 2 people in their 80s still so obviously in love, not just going through the motions, but actively loving each other every day after nearly 70 years. Having a grandfather like Howard and having him in our lives as an anchor and a role model, it's not rare, it's one of a kind. It's a blessing of a magnitude that I couldn't fathom as a child or a teenager or even a young adult. Though we no longer have the gift of his presence here with us, may his memory continue to be a blessing to all of us who are lucky enough to have him in our lives.
I'd now like to invite his granddaughter, Sarah Fisher, to speak.
My grandpa was incredibly important to me. Not only was his life an inspiration, he was also an incredibly encouraging presence. I always felt at ease and comfortable around him. He supported me in ways I didn't know that I needed. It wasn't necessarily what he said, but rather how he made me feel. He never questioned or doubted me. He always listened and asked questions with genuine interest in what I was saying. I'm going to miss him more than I think I currently realize. I'm going to particularly miss his big, beautiful laugh. I loved his laugh. He would throw back his head and his eyes would close and you could see all of his teeth. He would laugh with his whole body. He would lean back and plant both of his feet as if he were stopping to take in the moment. I'll miss his laugh and his jokes. I'll miss his shiny bald head and his groomed white beard and his big, strong knuckles. I'll miss his polo shirts tucked into his salmon-colored shorts and his freckled skin that always reminded me of his adventures spent outside. I'll miss his hat collection and the way he walked down the street like the city was his home. I'll miss the way he would say my name, always Sarah Fisher, in a surprised tone as if my presence was the greatest joy to him. I could sit with him forever, either in constant conversation or saying nothing at all. I'm so blessed to have had him as my grandpa and friend.
Now I'd like to invite his grandson, Charlie Fisher, to speak.
I'd like to share a few memories on behalf of my son, Rory. Listening to Grandpa sing and whistle on the patio, eating dinner with Grandpa over FaceTime while Grammy was getting ready, receiving a letter from Grandpa this winter just saying he was thinking of me. Even though they were 89 years apart, Rory and Grandpa already had built a special relationship. And that was Grandpa. He found a way to connect with all of his grandchildren, as you're hearing from my siblings and cousins today. Grandpa lives on in all of us, and his spirit will continue through generations of Addusses to come. We love you, Grandpa.
And now I'd like to invite Howard's grandson, Kyle Dushman, to speak.
Howard, Grandpa, Dr. Aduss, even Captain. I feel very blessed and grateful to have known this amazing man in so many different facets over the years. Grandpa. Growing up, Grandpa was an inspiration and set a great example of what it meant to care for others. I knew him as someone who was always busy spending time with family and friends, biking and traveling, to name a few things. I also remember any time I'd go to the dentist, my mom would tell the dentist, my grandpa is Howard Aduss. They would respond with such joy because not only would they have known of him, but they'd also had such high respect for him and knew what a wonderful person he was. As I got older, I started to go out to dinner a lot with Grammy and Grandpa. This is when I really started to get to know them and build my own relationship with them. I began my interest in technology around this time, and I remember talking about what we would do if one of my apps hit it big. Grandpa was always so supportive, and I cherish all those chats we had about my aspirations. Captain. When I was 13, I had the opportunity to sail the seas with my grandparents. Not the literal seas like my mom, but we set sail on Lake Michigan and lived on a boat for a week. We explored several small towns off the lake and just enjoyed our time together. I got to experience not only what it was like to live on a boat, but also experienced that with my grandfather. That is a trip I will never forget. Dr. Aduss. In college, I was pre-med, and one summer, to get experience working in the medical field, I did an internship at the Craniofacial Center. Dr. Aduss had come out of retirement, and I had the pleasure to work alongside him. I got to see firsthand how loved he was by his patients and his peers. I saw a totally new yet familiar side of him, the same intelligent, respectful, and caring grandpa that we all know and love. Thank you.
Me again. So this one I wrote. One of the things I love the most about mystical Judaism, which I study, is how all the profound wisdom and guidance is seemingly wrapped in these paradoxes, which, upon reflection, reminded me so much of my grandfather and how profoundly wise he was. How he could be so immaculate, so precise, how he wanted something so organized, and yet in his presence you were so at ease. He was so laid back. Or how he could tease you mercilessly, knowing exactly what buttons to push when, and still always come away smiling and caring, and you just feel more seen and more loved. And how he could love my grandmother more than any love I've ever had the privilege to witness, and still always be able to appreciate another beautiful woman. And how very seriously he took how much he enjoyed life and all of the people around him. Grandpa Howard is the type of man that made everyone better by being in his presence. He made me want to do better, to achieve more, to be less dramatic. And not because I ever needed to be those things, but because the way he loved me so fully and unconditionally made me believe that I could. He's the father figure that remains the golden compass in my life, and I will always. And though a relationship with him must change, he's no longer on this plane, I know at least I'll get to hang out with my brother Ethan, and I'll get to know him in this new way. And his influence of love, wisdom, heart, and everything that he stood for remains alive within each of us, and in the great legacy that he built. So I go forth knowing that his greatest wish was for all of us to endeavor.
I don't know what's a testament to a life well lived than having everybody in your family speak the way that all of you just spoke about Howard. How beautiful and incredible. Howard was born in Brooklyn, New York, and grew up in Howard Beach. He graduated from Stuyvesant High School, went to Purdue and then Northwestern for dental school. Marcia tells me the story about how they met. It was a football weekend at Purdue. She was a student at the U of I, and she went to Purdue for the weekend. Her date asked Howard to take care of her when he was busy with something. How fortunate. And they fell in love immediately, according to Marcia. She was 17, but when she returned home, she told her mom she had met the man she was going to marry. And they did 2 years later. And they had quite a charmed life together, as Marcia describes it. He was a dentist in the Navy for 2 years in California. In addition to his dental degree from Northwestern, he got an orthodontic degree and master's in anatomy from Eastman Dental School and the University of Rochester. He and Marcia settled in Highland Park, where they raised their 4 children, Kathy, Laura, Robert, and Debbie. He had an orthodontic practice in Old Orchard, and as we heard from Kathy, he was a professor at the U of I College of Medicine and a staff member and director of the Center for Craniofacial Anomalies. He devoted his career to clinical research and the treatment of children born with birth defects of the face and the head. He was well published and he spoke around the world. And I love the story that upon retirement that he and Marcia bought a boat, brought it to the Mediterranean, and sailed it around the Mediterranean for 6 years. But there's another part of the story that wasn't shared that was even better, and that is that there was a cargo boat that was bringing their boat over to the Mediterranean, and Howard insisted on riding with his boat on the cargo boat across the Atlantic to bring his boat over. The only owner to do so that he could work on his boat and make sure that it was in top condition, and he spent the time with the crew of this boat. And we heard about also his sailing and racing on Lake Michigan, of course, the Mackinac Race. He sailed all over the world, as far north as the Arctic Circle and as far south as Fiji, and he visited 69 countries. And we haven't yet also heard that he was an avid cyclist, if that wasn't enough, all the wonderful things he did in his life. He used to ride from the city to Glencoe to Debbie's house. After he retired, he was riding those long rides. And he also did the AIDS ride from Minneapolis to Chicago in his retirement. As we have heard, in his 90 years, Howard lived a full and active life. His grandchildren that spoke so beautifully about the time they spent with him used to say, we'd have to call our grandparents and check in to make sure that we could spend time with them because they were so busy with their friends and their social life that we couldn't just pop in on them. And to his children who remember how he raised them, the red pen that used to correct their papers and how they learned how to write, the Sunday morning pancakes he would make, that no singing was allowed at the dinner table, but could be done while chores were being done. Sailing together with the whole family. And Marcia said to me, Howard wanted to buy a boat so that all 6 of us could be on the boat and we could learn to work together as a team. Howard's children said it was not always a harmonious team, but they did learn to work together on that boat. And every Thanksgiving, they have wonderful memories of piling into the station wagon and driving to Connecticut to be with their family there. Howard grew up with 2 siblings, Judy and Edward, and they were a close family, and he wanted to spend time with them later in life, too. Marcia, you were blessed to live, as you said, with a wonderful man in a golden era, to raise a big family, to travel, to be with someone who had a successful career, and to be, as we have heard, so in love with each other for almost 70 years. What an incredible blessing, and I know an incredible loss as well. I know all the memories of Howard will continue to buoy you at the same time that you mourn his loss, and this loving family will be there to help and love and support you. But we know also what a hard time this will be for you, and we extend our heart and our love to you right now, Marcia. Howard leaves a legacy of being an incredible professional, a renowned specialist, children whose lives he made better, and most importantly, a family that loved and adored him and learned so much from him and loved being with him. Our Gibor Chayil, Howard Aduss, a man of valor. What a life he lived. What a legacy he has set for all of us. As we say the words, Yichrono Livracha, may his memory be for a blessing, we make his memory a blessing by continuing to tell the stories, to have a full-throated and hearted laugh when we think about him, and to live by the example that he set for us. In these ways, his memory will continue to be alive and will bless each and every one who knew and loved him and continue to bless this world that he left a much better place because of the tremendous life that he lived. Amen. we take a moment now to offer in our own hearts a prayer for Howard and a prayer for his family. God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way. But you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort and the sorrow-laden for consolation. O God, we see life is through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is a dwelling place of your love and of your glory. I invite you now to rise as you are able as we conclude this part of our service with the El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim shorchen ba'am romim, hamsei menucha nechonatach kanfei shechina, im kurushim utorim kuzar akim masirim et nishmat Herschel ben Yitzchak v'yeta shalach la'olamom. Ba'al harachamim yasireu v'seter kenefav la'olamim Yitzror b'torah chayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Dr. Howard Aduss, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. Please be seated.
This concludes the service here in our chapel. The interment will take place immediately at the family's plots at Shalom Memorial Park Cemetery, 1700 West Rand Road in Arlington Heights. Following the interment today, the family will be sitting Shiva at the Fisher Residence, 2246 Orrington Avenue in Evanston. And they'll be greeting people from 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. Please note on the service folder, the normal permit required parking has been waived for the duration of the Shiva. I'd also like you to please take note the family has asked for memorial contributions to be made to the Craniofacial Center at University of Illinois, Chicago. That information's on the service folders that you received when you arrived. If you did not receive one, they are available as you depart. For those watching online, this information, as well as the Shiva information, is available on the website you are currently on. For those of you going with the family in procession to the cemetery, the procession will be forming in our parking lot. Please make sure you have an orange funeral safety sticker. That sticker should be placed in the front passenger side of your windshield. We'd also ask that you please have your bright headlights and flashing hazard lights on at all times. For an additional measure of safety, our staff will be placing magnetic flags on the tops of the vehicles throughout the procession. As we drive in procession today, please drive as close as safety permits to the vehicle in front of you at all times. We want to avoid having any large spaces or large gaps in the procession, particularly as we pass through the intersections. Serving as pallbearers today will be his grandchildren. At this time, I would ask everyone to please rise as the deceased and his family and rabbi are escorted from the chapel. Pallbearers, please step forward.